is New York Tonight. Here's what we're covering this hour. An emotional rally calls for an end to violence in the Bronx. This after a 14-year-old boy was stabbed to death Friday while on his way to school. Justine Ray standing by. Plus, the latest on those devastating wildfires in Southern California. The death toll rising. Late reporting from our colleagues in Los Angeles. And new data gives us a better idea of how the first week of congestion pricing played out. Plus, your evening forecast.
That's right. We had a small thaw today, but temperatures are tumbling. A cold blast will be in town tomorrow. We're going to have the details coming up.
All that and more happening now on New York Tonight. Thanks for being here with us as we start a new week together and launch New York Tonight. I'm Cheryl Wills. We begin this hour in the Bronx, where a heartbroken community comes together calling for an end to the violence after a 14-year-old boy was killed Friday while on his way to school. Many now saying enough is enough. Tonight, Justine Ray in Williamsbridge leading us off. Good evening, Justine.
Cheryl, incredibly difficult day for this community. People say that Caleb Rios loved sports, loved football, and that he was the most incredible person.
We love Caleb. We love Caleb. We love Caleb. We love Caleb.
Balloons were released into the air earlier today. Police say 14-year-old Caleb Rios was stabbed to death Friday at 3rd Avenue and East 138th Street. He was pronounced dead at Lincoln Hospital, stabbed in the chest, which led to his death. And police say Waldo Meja was arrested in connection to his death with charges including murder and manslaughter. And authorities say that he had prior arrests leading up to this. But as far as Caleb Rios goes, people said that he was just the kindest person. He lit up a room when he walked into it. And people I spoke to here today at this commemoration for his life had nothing but wonderful things to say about him. Let's listen.
He was somebody that people wish they can be. Like, he was smart, intelligent. He had a smile that lighted your whole world.
He truly is a beacon to each and everyone who's met him. His smile, his brains, his demeanor, his personality was one that we all gravitated to.
Caleb was a very jolly individual. I remember days when we used to go to this park right here.
The commemoration was put on by the Bronx Empowerment Youth Program, which helps kids empower their communities and better their communities. And that was the kind of person that Caleb Rios was. So just a really challenging day for everyone here today. Cheryl?
A very challenging day indeed. Justine Ray leading us off to the other major story this hour, also out of the Bronx. We're getting a first look at surveillance video of last night's wild scene where police shoot a man who investigators say called 911 to report someone attempting to steal an air conditioner. Tonight, Chris Welch in Mott Haven with the latest. Chris.
Cheryl, still a lot of questions about this story. Police believe the man with the knife went out his building's side courtyard to confront someone that he thought was stealing his air conditioning unit. Then he came back into the main lobby here, and that's when police shot him. On Sunday night, 2 police officers entered an apartment building on East 148th Street. They were responding to a 911 call from a man who said someone was trying to steal his window air conditioner. According to police, they couldn't find the man who placed the call and were walking back down the stairs to the first floor landing.
As the officers are approaching the first floor landing, a 32-year-old male was coming up the staircase from a side entrance with a kitchen knife in his right hand.
In this Ring camera footage from the door of a main floor apartment, an officer appears to yell, "Wait," and then...
One officer gave the male verbal commands telling him to wait, 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 and also telling him to drop it, while also putting her hand up to motion for him to stop. The male continued to swiftly approach the officers, still with the knife in his right hand.
Police say the man holding the knife, seen here, is the man who called 911.
This situation was extremely fast moving, lasting only a few seconds, in an extremely tight stairwell.
They say he entered the stairwell from a main floor door leading to a side courtyard.
I heard like 2 gunshots. Pop, pop. I came downstairs, all I see was bile, blood on the floor, the man laying down.
The shell, right here in front of my door.
First responders transported him to Lincoln Hospital, where doctors were able to stabilize him. Juan Rivera, who shared his Ring camera footage, says he was shocked by the number of officers that showed up.
More than 100 cops.
Others in the building speculate that the officers not giving their orders in Spanish may have been part of the issue.
Those specific put it down like abajo, put it, those little words might help the person to understand what they're saying.
Now, as for the man that was allegedly trying to steal that air conditioner, police say they do have security footage from that side courtyard of that man and of the man with the knife, but they say they have not identified him and they're still looking for him. Cheryl.
Chris Welch with us tonight. We turn next to the wildfires in Southern California. The death toll rising there, 24 people killed. Thousands of firefighters working around the clock trying to contain the blazes as those Santa Ana winds threaten the region yet again. Spectrum News reporter Ariel Wessler on the ground in Los Angeles for us.
I'm here at the Westwood Recreation Center, one of 8 shelters for those who truly have nowhere else to go. It's also the largest shelter for evacuees from the Palisades fire. Now, local officials recently lifted some of the evacuation orders, but the potentially dangerous winds could quickly change that.
We gained no acreage yesterday, which is a very good thing.
LA County's fire chief offering hope in the ongoing battle against multiple fires still burning. The Eaton blaze, one of the largest, now at least a third contained. Fire crews were also advancing on the most destructive of the fires, the Palisades.
We are not in the clear as of yet.
The critical gains, though, could be short-lived. Winds that eased over the weekend are expected to return to dangerously gusty levels now through Wednesday, potentially as high as 70 miles per hour starting Tuesday.
The entire region needs to be prepared to evacuate.
Repopulation will not occur until all areas are safe.
That message Monday to those who have already fled, many who've lost everything and now want to see it firsthand.
They need that to file insurance claims. People just wanted to see what was left of their house.
We know that, but we have people literally looking for the remains of your neighbors.
A grim task that's expected to increase the death toll in the days ahead. A 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew remains in effect in the fire zones, with officials confirming around 50 arrests so far.
We understand that people want to go back, but it is dangerous to do so, and we will not put anybody's safety at risk.
The chief of CAL FIRE says toxic ash, gases, and unstable buildings are all a deadly threat to returning homeowners, and it's a key reason why they're not allowing residents back into the fire zones just yet. Now, starting Wednesday, LA County is opening up 2 disaster relief centers to provide additional resources. Ariel Wessler, Spectrum News.
More coverage of the California wildfires in our next half hour. Reaction tonight from the White House and the race to support families, many with nowhere to turn. Evan Kosloff with that part of the story at the bottom of the hour. In the meantime, New Yorkers opening their hearts and their wallets for displaced families on the West Coast. Supermoon Bakehouse on the Lower East Side, one of several bakeries donating 10% of sales to help fire victims.
I can't even think about losing my home and all of my things. And yeah, they're just things, but those are what make you you. So it's just devastating to see that and to know that people are losing everything. And, we're 2 of the biggest cities in the country. So obviously we're going to help our West Coast friends as much as we can.
Our hearts go out to everyone in LA. So we're really grateful to be able to be involved in this cause today and just do our little bit for the community.
And in Brooklyn, a clothing drive was held over the weekend in Greenpoint. Those donations go to the YMCA in North Hollywood. Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist John Devitt here now with a check of the forecast. And John, what can you tell us about those Santa Ana winds?
Yeah, winds just as bad as the ones they had that started these fires are going to move in tonight and maybe last through the middle of the week. So everybody there is on edge because this is happening again, at least the wind part. Hopefully the fire part doesn't.
So hopefully the fire will not affect, they're talking about Brentwood this time, right?
Right, yeah. No, things are tense. All right, let's go check it out for you, show you what's going on that West Coast. And yeah, these winds are going to be increasing. The last few days, they weren't all that bad. Firefighters were able to get ahead, but now they are talking about wind gusts up to 65 miles per hour. We're talking about high wind warnings. We're talking about red flag warnings for those areas. So this is the setup: high pressure out over the Utah area, and then low pressure out near the Baja California creates kind of a vacuum in the atmosphere, and you get these westerly winds, and then those mountain passes really squeeze that air and really makes those gusts so fast. So yeah, these are the warnings. High wind warning Tuesday. That will go into Wednesday midday. Red flag warning starts at 10 o'clock tonight. Their time goes into the middle of the day. So this is very dangerous. Just the exact same weather conditions that sparked these fires. So we're going to watch it carefully. All right, here's your outside shot right now as we go back to our area. Current temperatures, not so cold. Hopefully you enjoy today's winter break because the cold's coming back. Right now, 41 at LaGuardia. We might not see 41 again, Cheryl, until really the end of the week. So cold blast moves in tomorrow. We'll be frozen all week, but no snow anywhere. We'll continue to track those fires and our cold temperatures. We'll talk more about it in the hour, Cheryl.
Our thanks as always, John. You're watching New York Tonight. When we come back, a preview of tomorrow's State of the State address, Governor Hochul's vision for New York in 2025. Plus, times they are a change, and Bob Dylan's memorabilia up for auction. And later,
all the booze and harlots and all the charlottes.
it was a viral sensation. Now, the guy who didn't like musicals coming to a stage here in New York City. New York Tonight, back in 2 minutes.
In chains, please take away my pain.
My father was a New York City firefighter. My mission, like his, is to serve New Yorkers in a city that doesn't stop when the sun goes down. Being with New York One since the beginning, I'm now honored to join you even earlier each weeknight. Starting at 8 with New York Tonight, we'll explore the latest news developments, followed by New York One at 10 to wrap up your day. So join me each weeknight starting at 8 right here on New York One.
In the state capitol, Governor Kathy Hochul preparing for her State of the State address. On Tuesday afternoon, she'll share her vision for the coming year. Let's get to Bernadette Hogan in Albany this hour with a preview. Bernadette.
Good evening, Cheryl. And the governor is expected to unveil her State of the State proposal with a whole host of policy measures. And top of that list is affordability, as well as solving the mental health crisis on the subway system. The governor has been providing some details ahead of the address over the last couple of weeks, and she's expected to provide additional details.
The foundation of it all is to have that good education, which is why, as governor, I am prioritizing creating those opportunities, those pathways, the options.
Spending time with students at the Hudson Valley Community College upstate in Troy on the eve of her 2025 State of the State address, Governor Kathy Hochul highlighted the work she's done so far.
Mental health has become a real issue for teenagers, and I'm a mom, and I wanted to help. So I said we should do much more.
Topping her agenda, helping those with mental illness get proper care.
I'm hoping to hear some form of involuntary removal.
Requiring a change to current law allowing health and law enforcement professionals to decide whether or not a person needs medical care against their will. Legislative leaders are weighing in.
We want a safe New York as well, so I am interested, and I think our conference is interested in what might be proposed so that we can figure a way forward that, again, respects people's rights, but also respects the, the safety of New Yorkers as well.
Hochul and other Democrats are trying to convince New Yorkers that they understand financial hardship. Hudson Valley Democrat James Skoufis says some have lost the plot.
Some Democrats literally, not figuratively, popping champagne, lighting cigars when the cameras turned on for congestion pricing on January 5th screams elitism. And we as Democrats need to get out of our ivory tower and back onto the factory floors.
Although the governor backs a proposal to give out checks to working families and is poised to unveil a middle-class tax cut, according to sources, the MTA is fishing for billions of dollars to help fund future transit projects. Democratic leaders say tax hikes are definitely on the board.
It has to. It will have to, everything will have to be on the table.
I am going to be carte blanche opposed to any talk about increasing taxes, new fees that hit the middle class, the working class, basically anyone that's not a millionaire or doing even better.
Now, the governor is expected to give her address midday on Tuesday in a performance space in Albany known as the Egg. Now, traditionally, governors have given their addresses in the State Assembly chambers. This year, the governor is shaking it up. Cheryl?
Bernadette Hogan reporting for us in Albany, and you can count on us for live coverage of the governor's address. Tune in Tuesday afternoon at 1 o'clock. To other news this hour, we're learning that doctors with city hospitals calling off their strike. Physicians reaching a tentative agreement with New York City Health and Hospitals after reports of salary disputes and a staffing crisis. Hospital officials say they hope the new contract will attract and retain staff. Just ahead on New York tonight, we turn our focus to Astoria, Queens. This busy two-way street now going one way. Mixed reaction from the community. Next.
All right, welcome back. Let's update your forecast. You might hear some howling around the city tonight. We've got a full moon out there, and there are some clear skies, so you'll be able to check this out. And when you see it, definitely look for a little orange dot next to the moon. That is going to be the planet Mars. So cool stuff to see in the night sky tonight. Not seeing the full moon here in our Queen shot, but certainly get out there tonight and take a look around. And they always give names to the full moons now, and tonight's it's the wolf moon, so that's why I say you'll hear howling. So yeah, this month is the wolf moon. Last month it was the cold moon, and next month the snow moon. So definitely nice to see. And the moon won't be up all night long, so you have a few more hours to check this out. Moon set tonight is at 12:32 a.m. So yeah, kind of cool stuff. All right, let's go take a look at your weather headlines. And temperatures are going to tumble tomorrow. Hopefully you didn't get used to the milder weather we had today. Tomorrow, we're not going to get much beyond the freezing mark, and it'll be like that most of the week. Also, no storms this week, and if you don't want the cold to stick around, you won't have to wait all that long for a warm up. This weekend, we'll see temperatures rise. So here's the dip down, just going to sit near the freezing mark over the next few days. Then we get to Friday, Saturday, it warms up. And if you're a weather insider, you know a lot about weather. You know when it warms up in the wintertime, it gets wet. So that 7-day forecast is going to show some showers when we get to the weekend. So tonight it's 27 degrees. That's where we'll head. We're not near that now. Right now we're in the upper 30s. And then tomorrow 32. That's it. The record high is 70. We won't be near that. Normal high is 35 degrees. So be ready for sunny skies tomorrow, gusty winds, Elmhurst. You don't get past the freezing mark. And then looking ahead, we're in the cold all week. And once the warm weather gets back, so does the wet weather. So we'll be tracking all that for you, Cheryl.
In tonight's Our Changing City report, we turn our attention to Astoria, specifically the debate over a new traffic pattern along 31st Avenue. It's now a one-way street. Now, drivers say it's actually creating more problems and more traffic, but supporters say the busy road is now safer for cyclists. Norlane Kawaja with a closer look.
This is a bike ride Alana Herlands feels safe pedaling.
A lot of these changes in New York City actually have been making me feel safer and more likely to ride my bike to actually get to where I'm going.
She said she's happy the city transportation department redesigned this stretch of 31st Avenue in Astoria.
So what's really cool about 31st Avenue is that traffic is only coming in one direction now. And so when I cross the street, I'm actually only looking in one direction.
The city began installing the bike boulevard along 31st Avenue in August 2024. 31st Avenue runs east to west, and 1.1 miles of the avenue is now being transformed from Steinway Street all the way to Vernon Boulevard. Two-way traffic made one way to get cars off the avenue and onto side streets.
It's becoming more of a challenge just to make it 4 or 5 blocks.
Longtime Astoria resident Michael Folk, who lives nearby and drives, says the changes create confusion and gridlock.
If you're going to work, if you're taking your child to something, you're running late. I've already seen people running the lights here, again, because the traffic is getting backed up.
Folk says he supports bike lanes, just not at the expense of drivers, and this has made 15-minute trips twice as long.
It feels like it's sort of an attack, for lack of a better term, on working class people that are relying on having to drive, that have to commute. Whether you have to take kids to school, you have to drive to work.
The 31st Avenue Open Street Group pushed for the redesign and conducted a community-wide survey back in 2023, receiving overwhelming support from residents. In a statement provided to New York One, the DOT says, every New Yorker deserves safe streets, and the redesign of 31st Avenue uses proven techniques to better protect pedestrians, cyclists, drivers, and all who share our streets.
Come.
Larissa Botchick runs a dog grooming business on 31st Avenue. She says she has a loyal customer base, but worries how the redesign will impact her and other small businesses in the long run.
There's no way of getting here in a direct route. Everybody has to go way out of the way just to make a left turn to get here to 31st Avenue. So it's just been very inconvenient.
Botchick says she has a front row seat to the gridlock. Meanwhile, cyclists like Herlands believe the redesign makes the streets work for the most amount of New Yorkers. The DOT says phase 1 of the project is still underway, with construction up to Steinway Street picking back up in the spring. It also says phase 2 of the project from Steinway up to 51st Street won't get started until after a meeting with Community Board 1 later this year. Norlane Kawaja, New York One.
And a quick check of business headlines before we head to a break. Johnson & Johnson now set to buy intracellular therapies, offering $14 billion for shares of the neurological drug maker. This is J&J's biggest takeover in 2 years. And Kohl's closing 27 stores across the country by April. That's just a fraction of the struggling retailer's 1,100 locations. The move is one of the last decisions by Kohl's CEO. He's stepping down on Wednesday. There's still much more to come in our next half hour. Here's the stock market. Thanks for staying with us. Your headlines this hour: a rally to keep the peace in the Bronx. This after a 14-year-old was stabbed to death while on his way to school last Friday. The alleged attacker facing multiple charges, including murder. Also tonight, new details about the Boar's Head listeria outbreak, the deplorable conditions officials found inside the meat-making plant. Plus, we got a break from the freezing cold today, but don't get used to it. John is back with Tuesday's freezing schoolcast. But first, continued coverage of the deadly wildfires in California. The tragic loss of life and property, now the center of a political battle on Capitol Hill. Some Republicans saying federal disaster aid to California should come with strings attached. Tonight, Evan Kosloff in Washington.
Across Southern California, wildfires are destroying homes and communities. But even before the flames are out, a political fight is breaking out in Congress over disaster aid.
It does come down to leadership, and it appears to us that state and local leaders were derelict in their duty in many respects.
Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson on Monday criticizing state and local leaders in the predominantly Democratic state, suggesting that Republicans in Congress might agree to provide the money only if there are strings attached.
I think there should probably be conditions on that aid. That's my personal view. We'll see what the consensus is.
Johnson's comments irking many congressional Democrats, since federal aid for natural disasters is typically bipartisan.
We've seen disasters in every part of the country of different kinds, earthquakes and floods and fire and hurricanes. I have never once asked or even considered, is this a blue state, a red state, a blue community, a red one? I would hope that's the approach the incoming administration uses.
And this wouldn't be the first time that politics impacted disaster aid. After New York and New Jersey were battered by Superstorm Sandy in 2012, dozens of Republicans voted against the tens of billions of dollars in federal assistance for those states.
It's going to cost tens of billions of dollars to get Los Angeles back to where it was.
Meanwhile, at the White House, President Joe Biden holding a briefing Monday night where he pledged federal resources to fund the recovery.
We're going to need Congress to step up to provide funding to get this done. And we're going to get that done, God willing.
The unprecedented wildfires have put local leaders in the spotlight.
Governor, I live here, Governor.
California Governor Gavin Newsom and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass have faced near daily criticism from incoming President Donald Trump. Trump writing on Sunday, "This is one of the worst catastrophes in the history of our country. They just can't put out the fires. What's wrong with them?" And one criticism has centered on some fire hydrants in the Palisades area going dry during the fires last week. Local water authorities say that the system was just not able to keep up with the unprecedented demand, causing the water pressure to plummet. On Friday, Governor Newsom called for an independent investigation. In Washington, I'm Evan Kozloff, Spectrum News.
Encouraging news coming in tonight about the crisis in the Middle East. U.S. and Arab mediators say they're the closest they've ever been to reaching a ceasefire deal, and some hostages in the Gaza Strip could soon be released. Negotiators say the latest talks could bring an end to some 15 months of fighting. So far, more than 47,000 people have been killed in the conflict. Now, if both sides agree to this latest compromise, Hamas would release 33 hostages during the first phase. Both sides say the next 24 hours are critical.
We are close to a deal, and it can get done this week. I'm not making a promise or a prediction, but it is there for the taking, and we are going to work to make it happen.
Soon we will know whether the other side wants the same thing.
Mediators say they want to reach a deal before Donald Trump is inaugurated next Monday. Also tonight, a federal judge says the Justice Department can publicly release one of special counsel Jack Smith's reports about the president-elect. Last week, a judge issued a temporary block on the report that accused Trump of trying to overturn the 2020 election. Well, that report will now be released as early as midnight. Jack Smith resigned over the weekend. And we're getting new information about last year's deadly listeria outbreak at Boar's Head's factories. Some plants were simply put filthy. Officials with the Department of Agriculture say they found mold, mildew, and bugs, both dead and alive, inside the company's production plant in Virginia. Boar's Head shut down that factory over the summer. 10 people died due to the listeria outbreak, including 2 here in New York. Donald Trump will be sworn in as the 47th president of the United States next Monday. And today, President Biden delivered what is likely his final foreign policy address at the State Department.
Today, I can report to the American people our sources of national power are far stronger than we were when we took office. Our economy is booming.
And from conflicts in Ukraine to the Middle East, Biden defended his administration's decisions over the last 4 years. Tonight, Daniel Grimes reports from Washington.
President Joe Biden traveled to the State Department on Monday to deliver his last major foreign policy address. He said his efforts to expand and strengthen NATO, his unwavering support for Ukraine against Russia's aggression, and his withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan has made America safer.
Right now, in my view, thanks to our administration, the United States is winning the worldwide competition.
Biden argued that he restored U.S. alliances and America's global standing after 4 years of Donald Trump's more isolationist approach. He also reflected on one of the more painful moments of his presidency, the chaotic withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan when 13 service members were killed in a suicide bombing. Biden said that unlike his recent predecessors, he did not leave a war in Afghanistan to his successor.
Critics said if we ended the war, it would damage our alliances and create threats to our homeland. Neither has occurred.
The speech was in some ways a rebuttal of the criticism by President-elect Donald Trump, who has claimed Biden is leaving office with the world more dangerous and chaotic because of Biden's foreign policy. There are also doubts about whether Trump will continue Biden's stout support of Ukraine and what ending U.S. support would mean for the NATO alliance. Trump has promised to bring about a swift end to the war, but has offered no specifics and has been critical of the money and weapons the U.S. has given to the embattled nation.
I don't think they should have allowed missiles to be shot 200 miles into Russia. I think that was a bad thing.
In the waning moments of Biden's presidency, as the devastation from 15 months of fighting takes its toll on Gaza, where access to food and health care is scarce, there is new hope for a ceasefire and hostage release agreement between Israel and Hamas.
I have learned in many years of public service to never, ever give up.
Now, this speech was just one of two that the president will make, arguing that his presidency was beneficial to the American people. The president will address the American public on Wednesday night from the Oval Office. In Washington, Daniel Grimes, Spectrum News.
Back here in the city, an update on congestion pricing 1 week in. MTA officials releasing new data showing less traffic in the congestion zone. Transit reporter Samantha Liebman crunches the numbers. Good evening to you, Samantha.
Cheryl, MTA officials say that the plan is working, that crossing times into the central business district via the river crossings are shorter by 30 to 40%, and there are less cars entering, but they caution that the numbers are preliminary. The MTA touted the numbers from the first week of congestion pricing.
It's been a great week in traffic, a great week for New York. In the first 5 weekdays of the program, CBD entries were down 8% from the January estimated baseline, which was a conservative baseline.
Officials caution traffic patterns are still shifting, and the number of cars into the congestion relief zone did creep up throughout the work week, but they took numbers from last Wednesday and found travel times into and around the central business district improved from the same Wednesday last January.
30% to 40% trip time savings across the board. There are a couple of outliers.
Like the 65% reduction in trip time to cross at the Holland Tunnel may be due to construction last year, but not all of it positive. 23rd and 42nd Street saw much slower travel times, as did 2nd, 5th, and 9th Avenues, although express buses have seen faster rides and some routes have seen an increase in ridership.
We're looking at express bus, and what we've found, again, preliminary findings, is that ridership growth has been higher than average on a handful of routes, coming from Brooklyn, Eastern Brooklyn, coming from Staten Island.
Also the Rockaways, but the MTA says there is plenty of capacity. As for how much money has been made,
we have not looked at revenue numbers. What is most on our mind at this point in time is that New Yorkers see and feel the effects of congestion pricing in their lives.
Traffic will continue to be monitored along with the city, and adjustments be made as needed. And though it's not required by law, the MTA is committed to a dashboard with statistics, which will be up and running by February and updated monthly. Cheryl.
Samantha Liebman there. Let's check back in with Chief Meteorologist John Davis. So we got a break from the cold, but it's coming back.
Yeah, today felt good. Like I could take off a couple layers.
But
it's January.
Time to bring back the gloves, the hats, and everything else.
All of it. Yeah, all right. Yeah, let's go take a look. We'll start with that school cast, show you what to expect tomorrow. Students and teachers, it's cold winds. I know it's been a cold month so far. One of the colder Januaries we've seen in a little while. take a look at your 7 a.m. temperature, 29 degrees. Feeling more like 19 or 20. It will be a sunny day, so we can give you that. All right, clear skies going on right now, and at this hour, we're not so chilly. Here's our futurecast, and as we go through the nighttime hours for the next couple hours into the overnight hours, pretty quiet. We're not tracking any storms, and temperatures still at 2 a.m. are only at 32 degrees, so the cold really moves in while we're sleeping. So clear skies now, but when we go to bed, temperatures really fall, and this is as warm as we get tomorrow. We're talking about it being colder tomorrow than it is right now. So sunshine tomorrow, but a lot of chill. Take a look at those wind gusts up over 20 miles per hour in the afternoon. That'll make the 30s tomorrow feel like the 20s. And once the cold gets here, Cheryl, it's going to stick around all the way through about Thursday. Friday's the next warmer day.
Okay, John, thank you. And looking ahead to our climate check at 10 o'clock, a big blow for big oil. Today's Supreme Court decision on moving climate liability cases to the federal level. Tonight on New York 1 at 10. And still to come this hour.
Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. I'm not sleeping.
Bob Dylan's memorabilia up for auction, including drafts for Mr. Tambourine Man. Stay with us.
In the jingle jangle morning, I'll come following you.
New York City weather can be beautiful, inconvenient, and at times powerful. And it affects everything we do. At New York One, our weather experts update you with the information and context you need throughout the 5 boroughs so you can better plan your day. And we do it every 10 minutes. We're the calm in the storm. Weather on the Ones on New York One, exclusively on Spectrum. Get your weather anytime on the Spectrum News app.
As the city closes more shelters for asylum seekers, Mayor Adams defends his administration's spending on the migrant crisis. It comes in the wake of a report that says officials miscalculated costs. Kelly Mena on the political beat.
I surrender. My math is not the best. It's not the best. But can they talk about the $6 billion? That's what we should be focusing on, the $6 billion. $6 billion of taxpayers' money went to pay for crises that we should not have had to pay for.
That was Mayor Adams on Monday, passionately defending his administration's budgeting for the migrant crisis. Since 2022, over 220,000 migrants have come to the city. But in the last 6 months, the population of new arrivals in the city's care has significantly decreased. Despite the drop, the city's independent budget office claimed the city still greatly overprojected costs.
If they want to say that we're off by a couple of numbers, we need to adjust it, we'll adjust it.
The report showed that the projection for 2024 was off by $1 billion based on actual spending, and that projections this year have ballooned over $4 billion. The budget scrutiny comes as the city has been closing dozens of shelters amid a drop in the number of migrants in the city's care.
We said you can't stay here forever. You did not come to America to live in shelters. Yesterday, I was out at Floyd Bennett Field. It's unbelievable that shelter's coming down. We had over 2,000 people there, families.
By June of this year, the city plans to close 46 emergency shelter sites. Under President-elect Trump, Adams is expecting the numbers to continue to fall.
The new focus by this administration on ensuring that we secure our border and come up with real immigration policies, I think is going to assist us. We're seeing a decrease already in the number of people who are coming in. More are leaving than those who are coming in.
Adams officials have already started reaching out to the incoming administration to talk about priorities for the city. Trump is set to be inaugurated in a week, and the Democratic mayor could potentially be in attendance.
Team is still trying to figure out if they're going to let me go. There's going to be a lot of things happening over the next few days, over the weekend. And so we're still trying to figure out.
Kelly Mena, New York One.
In pop culture news, Bob Dylan's memorabilia now up for auction.
Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. I'm not sleepy, and there is no place I'm going to.
The Legends fans in for a treat as items like handwritten drafts of this song, his first #1 hit, Mr. Tambourine Man, now for sale, as well as some of his art, even one of his famous Telecaster guitars up for grabs. The music icon, of course, got his start right in here in Manhattan's East Village, playing a number of clubs and folk cafes before he hit it big. The auction will be held Saturday at the Musicians Hall of Fame in Nashville. And a 9-hour Netflix documentary about another music legend, Prince, may not see the light of day after all. That's because his estate is blocking the release, demanding major changes. They say the documentary is not factually accurate, and they accuse the current cut of sensationalizing his life. Netflix hasn't commented on the legal battle. Prince died in April of 2016 from an accidental fentanyl overdose. More news on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
From my time growing up in Queens watching New York 1 to my time reporting here, I've seen how quickly a story can change. At News All Day, we bring you the news as it's happening, from around the boroughs to local government to your neighborhood. Because our city never stops moving.
3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Shannon Ferry with the day's developing stories. But first,
stay up to date and informed with News All Day, weekdays from noon to 4.
All right, welcome back. Let's update your forecast. Here's a look at the bright lights of Times Square. Not so chilly tonight. Temperatures right now sitting near 39 degrees. We are going to be much colder tomorrow and for the rest of the week and even beyond. Take a look. Tomorrow, the forecast, today's top temperature was 42 degrees at Central Park. At LaGuardia, we hit 44. So hopefully you didn't get used to these numbers because tomorrow is going to be much colder. Look at your wake-ups. Talking about Staten Island, 25 is where we start the day tomorrow, 29 in Manhattan, and we're not going to warm much beyond that. The afternoon highs right around the freezing mark. Harlem, 33. That's the best you'll do, and with a gusty wind, going to feel more like 20 for a lot of the day. And the cold weather, we've seen it all month, and it's not going anywhere. Here's the 8 to 14 day outlook from NOAA. Look at all the blue on the map. Blue means cold, so really through the end of the month, we're going to have more cold than warm days. Does that mean more snow? Probably not. The NOAA forecast calling for generally dry conditions for a lot of New York states. We're kind of in between, so there's a chance, but boy, we are behind in terms of snowfall. So far this winter, just a little bit over 4 inches is what we've seen in Central Park. The average is normally about 7 by this point in the year. Last year, we didn't see much by this point either. So there's a lot of winter yet to come, but snow lovers have been disappointed. DC, you've seen more snow than us. Kansas City, St. Louis, they've seen more snow than us. So we're really kind of on the losing end of the snow streak so far. Syracuse, of course, has seen way more snow than us. So tomorrow, no snow, but it'll be cold enough for snow. We'll get sunshine and a high of 32 in Forest Hills. 32 is the Woodside top temperature. And again, sunshine from start to finish tomorrow, but with gusty winds, and that's going to make those temperatures in the 30s feel like the teens and 20s. So bundle up tomorrow. You're going to need it. Those winds certainly are going to add to the chill. When we look ahead to Wednesday and Thursday, the cold stays with us. Warmer when we get to Friday and the weekend, but warmer means wetter. We're talking rain showers to kick off your weekend.
In theater news, Sunset Boulevard is back, this time with the creative use of video on stage. Watch. Yeah, the gritty streets of New York City captured on camera and streamed back to the theater live. Frank DeLella tells us how the production team pulls off this feat 8 times a week.
Open any social media platform and search Sunset Boulevard. You're bound to be bombarded with a slew of videos that capture the phenomenon that is the start of Act 2. Actor Tom Francis plays the writer Joe Gillis, wrapped up in Norma Desmond's world. Tom and his director Jamie Lloyd contemplated a few ideas when they began working on the show in London.
I remember going in
to rehearse it with Tom Francis, this idea suddenly came to me. What about if we started in your dressing room and then we did like a one-shot tracking you through the building backstage, and then just at the point where we think that you're about to go on stage to sing Sunset Boulevard, you actually leave at stage door and then walk around the block singing it on the streets.
Just completely and utterly confused what he's just said. I was like, is that even possible? And he was like, no, we actually don't know. He was like, I need to go and have a production meeting.
Jamie Lloyd called on filmmakers Nathan Amsey and Joe Ransom to implement these video elements. Sunset Boulevard marks their Broadway debuts for video design and cinematography.
All the way up into like through our tech and like getting into our first preview, we were still scratching our heads. We were still working it out.
Jamie was ready to cut it. He was like, it's not going to work, is it?
I think we did it
three times
we did.
Wow. We had to do it in front of an audience.
And then we did it in front of an audience, and we were quite literally running
We were
around.
like this,
yeah,
holding each other like this.
Wow. He comes back into the auditorium, the audience go crazy. We were like, we've done it.
We were like hugging each other, being like, we did it, we did it. And then it was like, okay, now we have to do it 8 shows a week.
Sunset Boulevard's secret weapon? The camera operator Shayna McPherson, who you can find furiously backpedaling during the top of Act 2.
I've got my personal guide, Veronica, and she helps me a lot. She's guiding me, she's holding my shoulders, and I'm going backwards. It's a team effort.
It takes about 200 people to make that happen. And that cheer at the end, it feels so good. It feels like it's an applause for everyone in the most like beautiful way.
Frank Tilella, New York 1.
And we leave you this hour with a musical production like no other. Rehearsals underway this week for The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals. The parody became a viral sensation a few years back, and now actors on Staten Island now putting their stamp on it.
Every single person in this cast loves this show. So when we saw a few months ago that the rights had gone up, we thought it's the perfect show to do. Pretty reasonable budget, and everybody's working together. It's an ensemble cast, so almost everybody's playing 4 or 5 different characters. And it's been a real joy to work with them.
And I know when I first watched this production a couple years ago, I was absolutely floored by it and so enticed in the entire thing.
All the booze and harlots and all the charlottes.
Now, this is a scene from the original production streamed on YouTube. It has a cult following with nearly 9 million views. Now, you can see The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals on Staten Island at Wagner College Theater's Stage 1 for 3 performances starting this Friday through Sunday. Hey, thanks for watching New York Tonight. I'm Cheryl Wills. The news continues right after this.